Welcome back to our deep dive into the Secret Life of Olivia. I hope you've had some time to think about those questions we left you with,
I know, I have.
because things are about to get really exciting.
I am so ready for this.
Okay.
So last time we left off with Olivia facing this epic showdown with the shadow sprites.
Right.
And what I'm really curious about is how she uses those 5 gems, her magical toolkit, during the fight.
Well, each gem has its own unique power, right? But the real magic happens when she learns to combine them, to use them strategically in different situations.
So it's not enough to just have these amazing powers. She has to know how to use them effectively.
Exactly. Like a martial artist mastering different fighting techniques.
Ooh, I like that analogy.
And remember, she's still learning, still figuring out the limits. There are definitely times when things go wrong.
Yeah, like that time when she tries to use the blue sapphire.
The gem of control over light.
Right, to defend herself from a shadow sprite attack.
Oh, yeah?
She ends up accidentally blasting miles across the neighborhood with a beam of light.
Oh, I remember that scene.
I was laughing and cringing at the same time.
It's a really pivotal moment because it shows what can happen when you have power, but you can't control it.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that even with the best intentions, things can go wrong, and we have to be aware of how our actions affect others.
It's like that saying, with great power comes great responsibility.
Exactly.
Except in this case, it's a 9-year-old girl who has to deal with that responsibility.
Right. It definitely makes her think twice before using that blue sapphire again.
I bet it does. And it's interesting that this happens right after she masters communication through light with the pink diamond.
Yeah.
It's almost like the story is saying that true control comes not just from mastering each power individually, but from understanding how they all work together and how they affect the world around you.
That's a great point. It's like learning to play an instrument.
Yeah.
You can learn each note, but it's the way you combine them, the rhythm and the harmony, that creates beautiful music.
Exactly. And speaking of beautiful, let's talk about the white diamond, the gem of wisdom.
Oh, yeah.
This one isn't as flashy as, say, shooting light beams or creating gateways, but it's probably the most important one.
It might be.
Why is that? I mean, wisdom sounds nice and all, but how does it actually help Olivia fight shadow sprites?
Well, remember how we talked about light communication needing a lot of focus and concentration?
Right.
The white diamond boosts Olivia's ability to block out distractions, to see the bigger picture.
So it's not just about knowing a lot of facts, but about having that deep understanding, that intuition that helps you make sense of the world.
Exactly. And in a battle against creatures who are all about deception and manipulation,
Right.
that kind of insight is crucial.
Like that scene where Arthur,
Who's still conflicted about where his loyalties lie?
right, tries to warn Olivia about the shadow sprite's plan.
Yeah. He leaves her this cryptic message, but she doesn't get it at first.
Ugh, I was so frustrated for her. It was like she was missing a huge piece of the puzzle.
And that's where the white diamond comes in. Olivia uses it to analyze the situation, to connect the dots, and figure out what Arthur's message really means.
So it's like a superpower for critical thinking. I kind of wish I had a white diamond sometimes.
Me too. Imagine if we could all approach our problems with that level of clarity and insight. It would totally change the way we make decisions, even understand ourselves.
Okay, I'm starting to see why this gem is so important. But what about the more action-packed gems?
Like the green emerald?
Yeah, the one that lets Olivia see magic. How does that help her in the fight?
Well, remember how the emerald lets her see how magic flows in the world around her?
Yeah.
That's super important when she's fighting the shadow sprites.
It's not like she can just zap them with it, right?
No, but it gives her a huge advantage.
Yeah.
It's like she can see their moves before they happen, anticipate their attacks, and understand their weaknesses.
Wow, that's so cool. It's like having a sixth sense.
Yeah, like a precognitive ability.
I'm totally picturing a scene from a superhero movie now. Slow motion action energy blasts and Olivia dodging attacks like she knows what's coming next.
You're not far off. The fight is epic, and the emerald is a big part of how Olivia survives and protects the people she cares about.
This is all so exciting, but we still haven't talked about the red ruby, the gem that lets her create light.
Right.
And to me, that feels like the most powerful ability of all.
It's definitely the most potent, but it's also the most complicated and dangerous.
Why is that? Does it take a lot of energy, or is there something else going on?
What's fascinating about the red ruby is that it's tied to her emotions. The kind of light she creates, its intensity, even its nature, is affected by how she's feeling in that moment.
Okay, now this is getting really interesting. We all know emotions are powerful, But to be able to use them like a force of nature, that's incredible. So how does this work in the story? Does Olivia have to, like, meditate and get in touch with her feelings before she can create light?
It's not that intentional. It's more instinctive, almost primal. Remember those warnings her mother gave her about the artifact?
Mm-hmm.
Those weren't just for dramatic effect. Olivia's emotions directly impact how well she can control the red ruby's power.
So it's not just about learning a skill, but about understanding her own feelings, how they can be this powerful force of creation. That adds a whole other layer to her journey. It's like a metaphor for how our emotions can empower us or overwhelm us in real life.
I agree. And that's what makes this deep dive so much more than just a book summary. We're not just looking at the plot, but at the human experience reflected in this story.
I totally get that. But let's get back to the action. How does Olivia use the red ruby against the shadow sprites? Can she control its power?
This is where things get really intense. And I don't want to spoil the climax for our listener.
Okay, fair enough.
But let's just say the battle takes a huge turn when Olivia's emotions hit a breaking point.
Oh man, that's a good cliffhanger. I can't wait to find out what happens. Then I guess we'll save that for part 3.
Right. We should give our listeners some time to process everything.
We talked about the 5 gems, their powers, how Olivia learns to use them together, and the emotional side of her abilities.
Yeah, it's a lot to think about.
It is. So until then, keep those pink, white, green, blue, and red lights shining, and be ready to dive even deeper into the secret life of Olivia.